Mr. President, it is always, of course, an honor and a privilege to sit down with a state leader, with the President. Again, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day, out of your schedule to speak with us. My first question is, of course, something that is close as an Arab to your heart, and that is what is happening in Palestine, the suffering and the bloodshed in Gaza. What are your views on the current situation, and how does the world end this, finish this?
Well, good morning. Thank you very much. The Palestinian problem or Palestinian situation, we think it has to be given the Palestinian people complete self-determination and recognizing the state of Palestine. That's our aim, and that's what we support. Plus recent events, or the last few months' events, we totally condemn the massacre on Palestinian people. There is no justification for that massacre at all. We support the human rights of Palestinians, plus we want to see the end of war immediately, then support the Gaza people for what they need in terms of food, medicine, accommodations, whatever is required. This is the duty of international community to implement it. And again, I want to repeat it. We want to see the full self-determination and state of Palestinian to be recognized internationally and play its role in the area, in the region. Without a proper solution for the Palestinian problem, I'm sure the entire region will not rest forever, and prosperity and development will be delayed for a long time.
Mr. President, the issue here is that support from the people of the world for the Palestinian people is overwhelming. This is the same in the south, in the east, in the north, even in the west. You have seen, of course, the protests in New York, in Washington, in support of the Palestinian people. You have all this support for them. You have people saying that they need self-determination, they should be recognized as a state. But the reality on the ground is very different. How do you transform this support for Palestine into better lives for Palestinians?
I agree with you. That's why I say it's the duty of the international community to put more pressure to recognize the self-determination of Palestinians. And this genocide has to be stopped. We are living in a modern life, yet crimes and genocides committed on Palestinian people every day. It has to be stopped, and it has to be given the rights of self-determination to live in peace and prosperity.
Mr. President, since we're on the topic of peace and prosperity, Iraq, especially Baghdad, I was last here just after the Battle of Mosul. We filmed almost the entire battle. The atmosphere here in the capital is very different. It has transformed almost. Where there was paranoia and fear, I am sure you remember, now there is optimism and hope. People are out in the streets. They aren't afraid. They aren't looking over their shoulders. There has been a remarkable transformation in Iraq since the hot phase of the conflict has ended. Are you optimistic that things will get even better, that war is truly behind you?
Let me comment on what you said. I appreciate it. You know some of the problems. Iraq went through a very difficult period of time, for a long time, not only for a year or a short period, for nearly 40, 50 years. We suffered from internal conflicts, we suffered from war, we suffered from terrorism, we suffered from invasion. All what you read in war books, unfortunately, we have experienced. But I'm very pleased and I'm very happy to say, and I do support what you said, that there is new optimism and hope for future. Yes, the peace and security now in Iraq is a reality. It's not only hope and optimism, it's a reality. And we want to establish and strengthen this peace and stability in Iraq. Our relationship with neighboring countries are good. Our relationship with international community everywhere is good. And we are receiving numerous delegations from outside, and they all have recognized that the situation in Iraq has tremendously changed. We suffered a long period of time even from terrorism. I'm glad to say, and I'm very pleased to say, that this is over. We are stable, and we are concentrating on development services for the Iraqi nation. And that's very important. Yes, we have multi-political groups, multi-nationalities, multi-religious sectors, but I'm very glad to say dialogue is taking place between these groups for the benefit of future Iraq.
But there is a follow-up question, if I may. One of the things you mentioned, the divisions among ethnic lines, that has been a big problem for Iraq. Kurds by themselves, Sunnis by themselves, Shias by themselves, Yazidis by themselves, all distrusting each other, all trying, well, paranoid that the other side, that the other faction would try to take their lands, take their money, take their jobs. This has been a huge problem. How are you curing those divisions, especially after so much bloodshed?
No, I don't agree with you. The division hasn't been between nationalities. The division hasn't been between different religions. The decision haven't been between sections of the society. The decisions has been between the people and the government. The decision has been between the people and terrorism. The decision has been between some individuals in the society which they want to be one-man show. These are the difficulties. Otherwise, I think Iraqi people, all nationalities, now we have a Iraqi Kurdistan regional government and Iraqi government. Is full cooperation between them and full cooperation between all the sects of the Iraqi society. They take part in election, they take part in forming governments, they take part in even nominating local governments. This is all in a democratic process, which I think it should be given credit. The past is over because we used to be ruled by dictatorship. We used to be ruled by one-man show in the country. And many times they used to not only challenge the Iraqi population, they used to challenge international community. Now, I think we have learned from that, and we have to establish a good security and a democratic state and consultations between all political parties and all nationalities in Iraq through their representations in parliament, in government, in even the presidential office.
Well, one, of course, aspect or critical feature of prosperity is good relations with your neighbors. I am, of course, referring here to Iran. The recent tragedy of what happened to President Raisi 2 years ago, just after his inauguration. I also interviewed him, and he was very firm about his desire to improve relations with Iraq, that the two nations must be, and I quote him, like brothers. After his tragic death, could there be a change in relations with Iran? And what are those relations like now?
Iran is a very important neighbor to Iraq. And our relationship, I'm very pleased to say, is good and strong. And I think we are going from stronger to stronger position. As you said, the tragic death of His Excellency, the President, and the Foreign Minister, and other officials was a tragic accident which happened in Iran. We went to Iran and we gave them full support of what we can do during this period. But I'm sure that the good relationship between Iraq and Iran will continue. We have many aspects of cooperation. In every field of life, we have connections and past history with Iran, and I'm sure that our relationship with Iran will probably be stronger in future, and it's going to be improved step by step in every direction.
Well, one of the things we notice here is how many foreigners there are now in Baghdad. You have Germans, French, Russians, many Russians, Chinese here, Indonesians. You have many, many foreigners, businessmen. You can see their eyes lighting up with all the potential profits to be made. What are all these people doing here?
Most of the people are engaged in projects. As I said, in Iraq we have started improving our infrastructures, because infrastructures in Iraq has been neglected and damaged for a long period of time. And at the same time improving our services. In our services in every field, in field of education, in field of health, in field of transportation, we have to improve these projects. And most of these people, outside people, or what you call them foreigners, they are here to take part in the improving the life of Iraq and take part in implementing projects. And we are very glad to have them, and we make sure that they will be all treated respectfully, and they will all be taking part in development of future Iraq.
And if I may, Mr. President, with your permission, an unpleasant subject for you. The Iraqi parliament has recently called for the speed up of the withdrawal of foreign soldiers from Iraq. At what stage is that withdrawal? When perhaps are they going to leave the international coalition? And can Iraq handle its own security?
Iraq can handle on its security. I'm sure of that. And the relationship between Iraq and the United States is good. We respect the United States' relationship in Iraq. And you mentioned the agreement for multinational forces, which is mainly Americans. This is an agreement between Iraqi government and United States government. Obviously, any agreement has to be reviewed between time and time, and it has to be reviewed according to the situation. I think in Iraq the situation is good, as you mentioned it and I mentioned it, is good. So I think we have to take steps according to the new situation in Iraq and probably new agreement in future. But that agreement has to be done by Iraqi government and by United States government. We are very glad and we are very happy that United States and multinational forces has contributed a lot in Iraq. In the past, they were engaged in fighting terrorism. And now they are engaged in training. Most of their task is training. And occasionally they are aware of that terrorism, especially Daesh, may still exist in certain areas of the region, and they are aware of their activities. So it is very important that we come to an agreement when the time is right to ask multinational force with tanks to leave the country. But that has to be agreed between all sides. And at the same time, this is not a really decision by one individual or decisions by parliament. It's a political decision. It has to be taken in consultation with all political parties and with parliament and with the government institutions, and to realize what we need and what is required for either multinational forces or American forces to do, whether they have finished their task or whether we need them for further period. This has to be an agreement between the two governments.
But for now, you're saying that you need them.
I'm not saying there is a contract or there is an agreement, not a contract, is an agreement between the two sides, and we have to go according to the agreement. And we have to make consultations between the two sides on the agreement.
Mr. President, if I may, having filmed the entire Battle of Mosul, we saw some of the worst things during the battle. I'm sure you know how desperate things were. The Iraqi army that began the Battle of Mosul and that ended the Battle of Mosul is frankly, a completely different army, much more professional, much more battle-hardened, a veteran army. But my question was somewhat different. While Daesh, ISIS, the monster's head was cut off, their best troops dead, them now hiding in the deserts. My question was about a problem that is emerging in both Iraq and Syria, in the camps where their family members are still held. And in those camps, the wives and the relatives of those ISIS fighters are teaching their children that their fathers were heroes, that eventually they will rebuild the caliphate. What is this recognized as a problem, and what is being done about this?
No, of course it's recognized as a problem, and it's a problem, not for president, even for future. That's why our security apparatus, national security, Ministry of Interior, are considering these problems. And we are in dialogue with the countries which their nationalities are in these areas. So this is a continuous process. Yes, we are aware of it, and we have to be very careful about how we treat this problem. And as I said, this is in the hand of our security and with the securities with the many nations who have even prisoners or individuals are engaged in these matters.
And last question, if I may, Mr. President, of course, about the relations between your country and the Russian Federation. A rich history of relations in the military sphere, in the energy sphere, trade, agriculture. At what stage are Iraqi-Russian relations, and what do you see their future being?
Iraq has always had a good relationship with Russia. In the past with the Soviet Union, now is with Russia. And we want to strengthen that relationship. We can benefit from good relationship with Russia regarding our projects, our infrastructures, in the line of energy, as you mentioned, water, irrigation, and many other aspects of life. Plus, we can learn from your culture. You are rich in culture. We can exchange education, scholarships between the two countries. I think there are multi-projects and multi-objects and subjects which we can both contribute to it. And I'm sure our relationship with Russia will remain strong, and we want to have cooperation in many fields in future.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, again for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Now, I would wish you good luck, but seeing Baghdad, the transformation in Baghdad, I think you'll be fine without my wishes of good luck.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.